Here we go, episode 10 of A Dose of Sinsanity. I am GR3. I am here with Welshie and Jamokin, and we are 1/10 of the way there, 10%, to finding out what does PSGS stand for. You're going to have to spill the beans in not too long, Jamokin. How you feel about that?
I am starting to worry that I have to come up with something, but I still have the other 90% to rely on. So,
That is true. We're getting there quick. But we're going to jump right into things, and the first thing that we're going to talk about is penalties today. And it's constant throughout the season that some people are going to break rules and you're going to have to start dishing out or admins dish out certain penalties, whether it be draft penalties or forfeits and things like that. And I'm here to propose a different idea to kind of view this. And you guys tell me what you think about it. So, this season, at the beginning, a player on Aftermath was actually suspended for 1 week for, I forget the exact thing. I think it was something like selling accounts or boosting accounts or something like that, and it threw off all of his information. Um, but he was issued a 1 week suspension. What do you guys think of the idea of using this more often as we continue through AD2L?
I think it's a punishment that should be on the table. I think that I also know the 82L admins enough to know that they would be very sparing with doing something like that. I mean, they have quite often warned about like severe consequences for actions, and then like not really they laid out terms of how they were going to punish people if they did certain actions, and it sounded very severe. And then when it came to actually those actions, it wasn't as severe as they kind of represented it to be. So I'd be interested in this. Obviously, should be on the table. It should be an obvious thing that you're willing to do. My question is more so when would they apply suspensions, and like what would be situations that we see that occurring?
Well, my biggest thing that comes out is instead of draft penalties or like for toxic behavior. So typically, toxic behavior, you're given like a 30-second draft penalty up to like 110 or whatever the heck the max draft penalty is. And I don't see that fixing anything, nor do I see teams really giving a shit. And yeah, it's a little bit annoying through the draft, but it ultimately doesn't affect anything. And you see the toxic players are continually doing this time and like just constantly. It doesn't stop. And the idea of a suspension, right? Teams are going to give a shit if that player is unable to play in the next week. And finding stand-ins really affect your team and your chances of winning games, especially now with the group stage actually meaning something. Like you want your entire team, your 5 players, every single week. So the idea of potentially suspending 1 week for your first offensive toxicity, and then maybe for your second week you go 3 weeks, and then after that you just kick them. Like it's a nice step program, and it's probably going to get a lot of hate for me saying this. Like, but it does make a point that shit's not welcome, and it's a way to have your teammates hold you accountable. If you're going to be a dickhead each week and you're going to start getting suspended, it's going to hurt the team, and they're going to have things to say to make sure it doesn't happen again.
Yeah, I
see,
mean, after you, Jamoke.
I'm more in the camp that I think it's nice to penalize the individual player, but I also feel like it's the captain and team's responsibility to also make sure that their 5 players are playing in the confines of the rules. And I also like to see teams punished as well. It is something that we'll talk about it later, but the PSGS Invitational is doing is it's quite strict. I don't have time to deal with toxicity or stupidity in that matter. You want to be dumb, you're just not going to get to play. It's a privilege to play here, and you should understand that right off the hop. But in 82 Wells, format, I can see player suspensions being nice, but it still doesn't help against the team you infracted upon. I want to see more games overturned, personally.
I think that I've just seen a lot of like, I mean, it's both options are good. My thing is that I feel like I've only seen two kinds of punishments come out. I've either seen it's either draft penalties or like kicking entire players and teams. It just feels like there's not enough stuff that's done middle ground that I think would make a lot more sense. And that's something that I think is just something that's particular. I mean, people are going to hate to say this, hate to hear this as well, but I feel like pinpointing and harassing a player based on something that they've said or requested, or if you know they have something that really bothers them. Like, I'm going to say this, and it's, again, I know everyone likes to joke about it, but like, if Kitty says, hey, I don't like being tipped, like, please don't tip me, it actually really messes with my mental in games, and then everybody particularly harasses her, like, that's not really cool. Like, I would even say that somewhere it's like, hey, that should be a fucking warning, and that should be some shit that, like, you get slapped on the wrist for.
Yeah, but that's still kind of in the league rules. Like, I understand where you're coming from. It is shitty. Like, you take that into like another person, use that to kind of be a dickhead towards her. But in the same sense, nothing that the other team would be doing by tipping and spam tipping is against league rules. So there's nothing like you can't really hand out a punishment for that. You can maybe say, "Hey, try not to be a dickhead if you like know the person." But outside of that, there's if it's not in the rules, you can't force it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean,
But I
again,
do. Go ahead.
they all just kind of loops back to me of I just really want something that I want to see more examples of things on the in between, because I feel like there's too many things that are treated with like, oh, we're gonna give them like a minute draft penalty, and I'm like, that's way too low for that. And then there's stuff where it's like I've seen entire players get kicked or entire teams, and I'm like, that seems like an overstep. Again, I don't know jack about the situations, admittedly, but it kind of hits me that way. I just
But
want to see.
that's why I want to see games overturned, because it's one thing to suspend a player for the next week, but that doesn't help me, whoever you broke the rule against, whether it's toxicity or some other offense. um, I feel like teams should be more liable, and it shouldn't just affect that player, but it affects the people you surrounded yourself with, and you all pay the price for whatever Billy or Tommy did.
I think it's necessary to consider the aspect of what's the motivation going to be behind that then. So
Well,
there comes, just let me finish, of
yeah.
that. Okay, so now I'm not like, it's not only that now you have players who are strictening up their, and captains and teams who are strictening up their play and their, what's the word for it? Their attitude and how they treat other players. You also now have the motivation of like, if I can find a way to overturn this game on you, I'm going to. And that's something that I think it needs to be a little bit careful. Is people who are going to abuse the rule booking a bit.
Just don't break the rules.
Hey,
Like
I
it's not hard. It's not like all you have to do is just not all chat, and then there's no toxicity, and there's nothing like that. Like the biggest rule that we've had on Pot of Greed since it started was no one all chats except for the captain, whether it's pausing or saying G or asking like if they're good, things like that. Just straight up, it's eliminates any of that by just not all chatting.
we were the
And
same way.
yeah, and I agree. There's definitely has to be middle ground, and that's one of the reasons why I like the suspensions. I also agree that some games need to be overturned. I don't think it's hey you do this automatically overturned, but I do think is if there's a constant issue, then we're going to start overturning games. So maybe like the format of being you get a suspension for your first offense, the game gets overturned for second offense, and then like the third time, then you're just booted. Period. But like I do think it does kind of hit all the marks, like you were saying, JMO, where it does punish the individual player, which is something that's clearly missing currently. It does punish the team, and because now you got to go find a stand-in. And then it's also punishment on the captain. And the biggest thing that we stated before was we need to hold captains more accountable because we don't right now. We take everything as an individual thing and leave the captain out of it, and it shouldn't be that case. And if the captain is allowing this to happen, then there's going to be team issues in needing to find a stand-in each week, or long term, or games getting overturned and things like that. So if they can't figure out themselves as a captain and how to prevent this, then they're getting punished too. So I think it does hit every single mark, like what you're saying. And I would, like I said, I agree with Welshie, where we need to have a lot more middle ground stuff, where I would believe that most of the issues are not like, oh, this is kind of like a slap in the wrist, or this is freaking a terrible offense. Like, that's all the punishments are. It's either slap in the wrist or you're out. And
So
something like this kind of gives that middle ground.
I do want to point out that I think for stuff like alt chatting, on the whole, there are exemptions. Is like I can definitely see that being a player suspension or whatever. But then there's like other offenses, and I think it's really important, and something 82L I believe doesn't take into account is the intention of the offense. We see so many malice offenses, and the penalties are so small. Like for a malice offense, there shouldn't be a warning. You're just gone. You turn your matchmaking like data off in the middle of the season, and like, you're cycling it on and off. Gone. Whole team gone. Like it's a malice offense. You're doing it with the intention of cheating. Full stop.
Well, here's the thing: is I think they do look at that, but they try to find any reason for it not to be malice. And if it is malice, then they're going to be like, "Oh, well, I'm sure he didn't mean it." And there's a lot of benefit of the doubt. And I feel like that comes into the issues where the admins are more worried about being liked by the community than properly giving out penalties. And we've seen it, and they'll get a lot of like bad rep, and then they'll fold, and then they'll throw in a poll, which we'll kind of get to in a bit. But like they're scared to create a ripple in the community because they got to be themselves in the middle of every single talk and chat, that they're scared to actually make a stand on any ruling. And we saw that with the guy getting kicked and then allowing him back into the league after a poll because another team said, "Oh, well, we don't care." You know what I mean?
Like that stuff is just unacceptable.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
It's weak.
Ben, what are your thoughts?
I say bring back public shaming. I say that make them walk through the streets ringing a bell saying I'm a dipshit, and I'm a mean person.
Yeah.
Make him write a letter of apology that gets posted to the whole Discord. I mean, kind of joking, kind of not. I mean, my ultimate thing is that personally, I feel like I have respect for the fact that the admins are trying to balance both. Like they need the community not to hate them, but at the same time, though, there's not any way that you're gonna please everyone, and everyone's gonna call you a badmin at some point. Not everyone, but like there's always gonna be somebody who's gonna say badmins or some bullshit like that, right?
Sure.
I think you just try to get the fairest system, and the system that's going to make everybody as equally happy / unhappy as you can. Which, from my perspective, I still agree with you guys. Of like, hey, it would be nice if there was something, if we could see examples more than like this one time with Aftermath, of something that's not a draft penalty, which is, you know, the lightest slap on the wrist I could think of as far as like impact, and then banning / kicking a whole team. And I just kind of wish I saw more examples of that, so people were more aware of like, hey, you can't just push this until you get kicked. You can't just push this and then just, oh, draft penalty, and just take it because for the memes, right? And even then, kind of with the point of like, if you're talking about kicking a player, that isn't an individual punishment to me. Like kicking a player can really mess over a team's dynamic. Like I think that it actually is a massive problem for the team.
Thing with kicking a player though is it doesn't help the team that you broke the rules on. Like if it's playoffs and you get knocked out because they did something they weren't allowed to do, let's say pausing, and you lose the game because of it, and they're like, oh well, we'll just kick the player that unpaused or paused or whatever happened. That doesn't help me. I got eliminated from playoffs. Like my run is done. And so what? The team that plays them next week has an advantage because they're running a new player?
If the team did literally anything that would benefit, that altered the course or result of a game, I would say yes, games need overturned. If it didn't have an effect on the game, like somebody right at the end said GG easy, like neck yourself, then that is a suspension / ban for me. Like instead of not a game over.
Yeah, I'm for, again, like I was saying, for all chat and stuff, I'm totally with weak suspensions. Because they usually they're not going to change the course of a game.
They can be put together though too. Right? Like you can still have a suspension and an overturning.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And I think that's fine. Like I agree. A big issue is like you're saying, like he gets punished, but it doesn't help me, and I'm the one who played against him. They cheated against me, but the team that plays him next is the one that gets the benefit. And especially in groups now where every single game matters, I think that yeah, there should be some overturns. And I think that we should pull the trigger a lot faster on it. I don't think the rules are hard to obey in this league. It's not a lot of them, and most of it is revolved around not being an asshole.
Yeah,
and if you can't figure that out, then what the hell are you doing anyways?
Yeah.
So having the idea of overturning and then suspension on top of it, where yeah, it hurts you this week, and it's also going to hurt the team the next week.
Yeah. It sounds harsh, but like I'm completely for that. Because if you look at the rules doc that I put forward for, again, the PSGS tournament, is right at the top, doping? in bold. Oh, not the doping thing, 80 you should get on that. But no doping, guys. Is the first bolded line: ignorance of the rules is no defense. Not understanding the rules is no defense. This is your time to ask questions on the rules. If you don't understand a rule, or you're just going to be ignorant of the fact that there are rules, it is malice. It doesn't hold up in court, and I don't know why it's like, I know 8208 in court, but like I don't know why the shit's just allowed to run because I didn't know.
No, you're right. I mean, it's the exact same thing as like it doesn't apply. Court is one thing, but you look at any other sports league, it's the same thing. You can't just I high tackled this guy. I didn't know you weren't allowed to high tackle. Like nobody. Well, I was all forgiven. Like. No, like it's your
lumberjack the guy in the head in hockey,
exactly.
Yeah, that's the idea. Is like this is something that's used constantly in sports. Why can't it be used in esports? You know what I mean? And
I like it.
Like it translates so well. And we have to think like the admins have to make actual decisions. And sometimes most of the community is not going to like it, but there's an integrity of the league that you're trying to uphold. When we were talking to Seth, one of the cool things that he said was, I understand sometimes I got to be the bad guy, and somebody has to sit back and be the bad guy so that the league can operate properly. And this is the thing is, as an admin, you forfeit yourself as a community member. You're no longer a community member. You are an administrator. If you have to, you can't be afraid to upset some people.
Yeah.
Because you're keeping the integrity of the league.
So what I'm hearing is bring Mad Max back.
No, you're not hearing that even a little bit.
Okay.
You're not. I'm sorry, but you're just not.
Okay.
We need decisions, not indecisions.
But I agree with you. I mean, exactly like you said, you can't be. You can obviously have friends, but your responsibilities as an admin has to come before your relationships with people in the league, right?
Right.
Yeah, and the players also have to understand, like it's not personal, right? Like if Gambit or Dops ruled in something I didn't agree with or I didn't like, I don't take it personal. Yeah. I get an invite. Yeah, we're gonna pub. It's no biggie.
You're still I get where they're coming from too, because
of course
you have to, because you have to defend yourself, and it's no hard feelings.
No,
you're obligated to do so.
I would like to touch on one thing before we move on, is that with this as well, I know you mentioned the 1 week is the first offense and then 3 weeks is the second. I'm gonna be real with you. If I have to play without a teammate for 4 weeks, I'm either just going to drop them or I feel like it's not worth it at that point. I would in full honesty
let the team. Let the team, let the captain kick his ass out. Like that was the idea when I was thinking about that is, let's say it happens week 1. Like, you're 4 weeks essentially without a teammate. because they're a dipshit. Like you as you as a captain, you as a captain need to control your players. If you can't do that, then what are you doing? And that's going to piss off a lot of people. Like you were saying, as a captain, you would just kick them off. Well, you just handled it there because the last offense is going to be they get kicked out of the league anyways. So if they're constantly going to be a toxic asshole, let the captains kick them out, and then the league doesn't have to fucking deal with it. You know what I mean?
It's true.
Because they
How
realize
long-
how awful they are to toxic they are to their own team.
How long would you want the infractions to follow the player? Is it
Well,
like your employment record where that shit's just gonna follow you?
I have 100%.
That's your written warning, so don't fuck up.
I have 100% been by the fact that if you have a penalty at the end of the season, then
Oh,
it
it
needs
carries,
to
100%.
follow. It needs to carry. Now, if it's a penalty on a specific player, whatever team he's on the next season gets that penalty, or not team, but that player still has to carry out that penalty. And then if it's like a team deal, then wherever that captain goes, I don't care if they change their team name, but that follows that captain.
What I'm saying is, if you're on strike 2, next
Mhm.
season you break another rule. Is that strike 3, or are you gone, or are you back on strike 1 with
Oh,
a 1 week?
I think should at least carry a couple seasons.
Okay.
That's the other thing is there's a lot of like benefit of the doubt and what do you I can't even think what the word is, but probation. Like in
Yeah.
this league, like fuck
Times.
probation. Like if you want them gone and they're a negative to the community and the league, you don't want that around. That's how leagues die.
Yeah.
Like nut up, boot them, and then be done with it.
I'm with it.
That's just my 2 cents. But speaking of, and it's a good kind of transition, I want to talk about the announcement from Saturday. So 82L admins created another poll because we love the poll system so much. What do you think we should do? Should we extend the league this season or next season? Do you think the league should be or the group stages should be extended at all? Give me your guys' thoughts on just the whole poll in general.
I think it's silly to have a poll in the middle of the season to decide if we extend the length of the season.
I would agree with you.
Like,
Not to mention after week 5,
yeah,
like some teams week 4 already felt like they were eliminated, and there was some cases week 4 teams were eliminated. They probably didn't give too much of a shit in week 5, and then they kind of find out that maybe 2 games are going to be extended throughout the season. You know what I mean? Like,
yep.
and hey, you weren't actually out of it at that point, but you just threw because you were just dicking around because you thought you were already out. Yeah, I agree with you. There's no like this is stuff you should talk about for the next season. It should never be implemented.
I think that it's okay to take. I mean, obviously, there's never like a good time to take information to a degree, but I think that there's just factors to consider. Of there are teams and there are players who have planned their vacations under the idea of like, I need to finish this season and then I can go on vacation, right? Because I don't want to put us like, if we're a competitive team, I don't want to put us like me at going on vacation the theoretical week of the finals, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if you suddenly
Right.
extend that and we make finals, like, okay, what does that mean? Like, are you going to be okay with delaying the match because I'm going to be in Cancun for 2 weeks? And we delay the finals until then? Or, what are you okay with? Because you have to deal with the consequences that people do plan themselves around this.
Oh, 100%. And I'm still just not a crazy fan of polls. It just comes down to what we were talking about, where you're the admin, you need to make the decision yourself, and we don't need to be asking the community every single decision. It just shows weakness and shows that we're incompetent.
I don't think it shows weakness. I think that it shows a caring of what is going to please the community, because at the end of the day, this is a community-driven tournament.
A poll system has been used multiple times recently, and the way that I see it is we're incapable of making decisions on our own. Like we know what the community says because there's a giant feedback channel, right? And that's what the feedback channel is for. And there's constant talks and certain like different things. I don't think we need to poll the entire community every time there's going to be a decision that needs to be made. That's my point. That's where it shows weak. It shows to me that admins can't make decisions on their own. They need to pull the entire community to make the right decision because they're worried about making the wrong one.
Polls for punishments and polls for any kind of decision that should have nobody's opinion in other than an admin, I would agree with. But extending especially if it's something, let me backtrack on that as well. If it's something that's like an individual effectiveness, like it's not going to affect everybody in the league in this decision, then it's the admin's job to make it. If it's a decision that's going to affect every league and every person who plays in it, I think it is important to get multiple opinions and as many as you can as to whether this is something that people want or if it's something that people don't.
Is that something that you can do a vote in the town hall?
Yeah, I would say that's something you can do in a town hall. Probably better.
Right. Yeah, I don't think I agree with you. It's not middle of the season, but it seems like every time there needs to be a decision, it's a poll system.
What was the objective for this? Like, what were you gonna do? Just extend the season now? Like,
yeah, that's
people signed up with the understanding that this is going to run until X week. What if they're busy? Well, like, you can't just make shit longer. That's fucking stupid. People signed up for a 6-week regular tournament, and then however you're gonna structure the playoffs, suddenly it's 8 weeks. I don't know. Like, I think personally, I think it was stupid to even suggest you'd make it longer this season. If you're like, next season we're doing a poll, I'm all for it. You're gonna change this season? No, we're going into the last week
of group stage. Yeah.
And what, teams are just supposed to be able to adjust because suddenly 2 extra weeks are coming? You're throwing people who like have a spot locked now, being like, hey, you might not have this in the bag, and teams that are out, or you're just giving them a second chance. Fuck them. You suck. Better luck next time.
Well, I'm more interested in also is like what that looks like. So would it just be that they're extending group stage? Like, are they just going to extend group stage, or is this extend bracket?
Group stage would just be 2 more weeks.
2 weeks.
Yeah, I mean,
I agree. It has to be longer. Don't get me wrong. I'm totally for the 8-week best of 3. Like, we've said this a million times, Greco, you and I, how we think it should be done, and we're slowly inching there. But I don't think changing a season going into week 6 is the way to ever do it.
No, I would agree with you. But let's move on here. Let's talk. We got some interesting stuff coming up this weekend. Yeah, why don't you?
Yeah, we do. Oh, so as probably most of the...
You sound really flattered, by the way, just throwing that one out there.
Thanks, bro. As most of the 82L community would know, the PSGS Invitational is happening this upcoming weekend. The Open Qualifiers is Friday. It's been tough, but I'm also really excited to see this tournament work out. I think as it stands right now, the prize pool is sitting around 300, plus obviously the open quals buy-ins and some other donations I'm still expecting. So we'll see what's going to happen, but it's been really exciting seeing this tournament shape up. Much better than I was originally anticipating. That's for sure.
Got a lot bigger really quick. Like, there was a point when we were a little concerned if there was even going to be one. And then
for sure.
And then last minute.
So just for the listeners, Greco is helping me run the back end of this tournament, data collection and just other admin duties. It's been an amazing help. Shout out to him and the whole Protestants org.
Oh, yeah.
Especially for the doubling of the prize pool earlier. Shout out to that. Well, we can't forget that.
I'm not doubling it from where it is now.
No.
Well, she's laughing at
there was definitely a point when we first put it out there, and we didn't get that. We got one or two feelers, and that was about it. And everything was just real quiet, real low.
Well, I
And
still
then
the last day
it
to
was nuts.
yeah. So I'm sitting there. I wake up and I get on, and like my whole job was to collect the rosters, put in their like medals or MMRs, things like that, and basically get okay who is messaging for that direct invite and putting this all into one place, and then
Yeah, putting all the
kinda
nominations in
making
one
it
place.
easier to read for when we do go and we vote.
Yeah,
And there was a point where as soon as I would get one team done, the next would come in, and then the next would come in. And I just woke up and I hadn't had coffee yet. And I'm just like, fucking stop so I can go get coffee, please. It was just coming in that fast. It was cool.
Yeah, it was great. And we have there's some wild stacks. We have wild stacks.
My
The
lord.
average of the lowest team that nominated is under half of the highest average. It is wild. We have such a mixed bag of players. I'm so happy that this happened, actually.
The neat thing is it's like two different tournaments. So we have like the open qualifiers where it's really not that large of a spread. Like it's a really nice kind of ladder a little bit almost.
Yeah,
it's
the invites definitely helped with that.
yes, and the open qualifiers, at least I mean, unless there's new teams that are going to come in, but there's a good chunk of teams who are in that Legend 2, Legend 3, Legend 4 average that are in this and have like a legitimate shot to make it. And then there's like it kind of goes up into a little bit of the Conqueror League, and like I think the back end of it is Champion League, like two teams maybe, or Champion League, or three.
Yeah.
But like with the format, those teams are going to be playing each other. Like even like our 3.1K team is going to be playing, I believe, a 3.7K team for the first matchup, at least the way it's showing right now.
Yeah, the way it's showing.
So
right
it's
now.
not like they're going to be like majorly unbalanced.
Yeah, they're not going to be
playing
stomps really.
Yeah,
for sure.
So it's really neat to kind of see, and I think it's going to work out really, really smoothly. And then as soon as we get into that upper like main tournament per se, everyone's still pretty close. Where I would expect about 5K average being the 8 seed, and then going up to 6.3 average, and then everything in between, which is it kind of blends really nicely.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be a good tournament. I'm excited for it. I'm really excited.
And again, the last round of opens does end up becoming a best of 3, so anything can still happen there for sure.
Best of ones, anything can happen.
Yeah, like, I'm excited to see the two earlier rounds of the opens, because the best of ones, like that is truly where if you can cheese that game with something, you're going to the next round, baby.
There's a real chance to where something crazy could happen, like someone's just a higher MMR team is just dicking around and then just gets upset, or like a power outage happens and one team isn't able to go. Like it's one and done. Anything can happen. Anyone can lose those games. And I'm excited to see if we're going to have some of those kind of upsets. But what inspired you to create this tournament?
Well, it felt like it's been a little bit since the last tournament I can recall, and I always watched other people host tournaments, and they'd make decisions that worked for their tournament, but I was like, I'd really want to see what happens if we do this. And I think the larger thing for me was a lot of us have quite the MMR spread when it comes to our friends, right? You have friends that are heralds, and you have friends that are top 500s.
Oh yeah,
sure.
And so I wanted to kind of bring about a competitive tournament, but also it can be based around fun as well. And I knew, just like an 80-12, you're going to have winning stacks and you're going to have more fun stacks. And I think that's still true for this event. And so I went in with the intentions of having no MMR cap, so that you can literally play with anyone. I said bring Quinn or bring a Herald, and one team did bring DMN or DNM. So they really took that to heart.
Yeah, he's going to be
Um,
ready. I hear that he's really training for the tournament coming up. He's got like a scrim that he's going to be doing leading up for a warm up game.
Yeah, some like
What?
small DPC game against EG or something.
It's a bunch of scrubs. Not on the PSGS invitational level.
No. Once that's just the warm up for the main event. So I saw other people hosting tournaments and whatnot, and thought, I want to see what's going to happen like this. And I've heard people say it's going to fail, it's not going to work, and I think so far this tournament has been an outstanding success. And so one day I was just working, and it just hit me. I was like, I'm just gonna do it. I'm just gonna fucking send it. And I hit a few people up and then made a few calls and whatever, and all of a sudden we were just doing it. I randomly picked the time. I grabbed some casters. I grabbed you, and away we went. Really.
Yeah, it's falling in really nicely too. I want to elaborate on the fact that you're talking about how some of our friends are heralds, some of our friends are top immortals, and I think this is a really cool aspect of we have our friends that we really love playing with, but they're super high like MMR and or super low MMR, and this gives like a place where everyone is allowed to come and play, and you're allowed to play with those friends. And
Yep.
there's
And
a
you can get
lot
like
of-
good Dota.
yeah,
It's
gonna
not
be
like you're good in a
great Dota.
pub and it's just sometimes clowny pub Dota. Like, I expect teams to really be going and trying, and it'll be fun.
Or maybe they'll do something really silly because they want to do something silly.
Yeah,
Of course. Yeah, they're trying to
absolutely.
cheat something. I mean, yeah,
Minus the
Have
fact
at
that
her,
like
right?
you just don't know what teams are going to come up with for this tournament. And I think that's really exciting.
Yeah,
the
and
best of ones. Friday's going to be so exciting.
it is. It's going to
Um,
be a lot of fun. I'm excited to be playing in that open qualifier too. When we were deciding, we were talking and doing our direct invite votes, and I was like, man, I really wouldn't be upset with being in the open qualifiers. Like, it sounds fun. It's just more games of Dota, right?
Yeah.
And it's more chance to kind of play around and play more Dota with friends that you don't typically get to play with. Like, for example, I'm looking at like these teams and I see like Grin Esports, who has anywhere from a Legend 4 up to like an Immortal 500. And about every single rank. Like, they have an Immortal, or they have a Legend, an Ancient, a Divine, a Immortal 1600, and Immortal 500. And it's like none of these players would ever be on the same team as each other, most likely. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
But
it's just
they all get to play together.
you get teams that 82L just wouldn't allow.
Yeah. And we have a buddy on Pot of Greed who is playing with us in this tournament that we've been playing with since he was like Ancient 3.
Yep.
And he just exploded, and now he's reaching in the 300s in rank in Immortal. And we would never get to play with him if it wasn't for something like this. And we're super excited like about it because he's a really good buddy of ours. He's been coaching our team for a long time, and we finally get to actually like play in a tournament setting with him, which is exciting.
Yeah, it's exactly what we're going for. So I'm definitely happy that teams are getting to finally get together and play with people they really wanted to play with.
So what have you been seeing in like open qualifiers so far? Like, who are your favorites and who do you think like has some real potential? And who do you think are like I don't want to say like who do you think are the clowns of like open quals? Like, who are going to do some zany shit?
Oh, I know who the clowns are. Can I say the clowns?
Yeah, go for that.
Oh, MTL Snowboard Kids 2 with that amazing video.
Guys, if you haven't seen the nomination video, it is fire. Absolute fire. Some of y'all were slacking. That was a good shit.
Oh my gosh. That was Welchie, I'm sure I don't
Oh,
know
I
if
watched the
you've seen
video.
it yet.
I've seen it.
Did you?
It's amazing.
It's phenomenal. They are currently the lowest average MMR team. But they came out with like the biggest balls and saying, yeah, just fucking slap this shit on the fucking table. Like, I want to see them somehow make it to direct invite, or not the direct invite, the main tournament. But yeah, that's who I would say is the biggest clowns, at least. But there's some good teams for sure. That'll
Yeah,
be
there's
fun to
definitely some
watch.
good teams. I mean, agreed. You guys are probably one of the favorites going in. Um, I know Bright Guy did mention something about possibly bringing out some big guns for Grin Esports, so I'm not sure if that
I
roster is
think it
going
was
to change a
Grin
bit.
Death that would
Was it
be
Grin Death?
changed. It was Grin Death.
I don't exactly recall, but I'm kind of excited to see some changes.
I'm roster
See what they
bitch.
come
Don't
up
you
with.
worry. I know.
Do they have any big guns? Because on roster, they're like the third
They
team from the bottom.
do. They do for so they have like say an A squad and a B squad. Their A squad they have an Immortal 500 and Immortal 1659. Um, and in their other, I'm trying to find their quote unquote B team, which I'm pretty sure is where it's going to be. They have one Divine 1, and then the replacement's going to be for Simba, who's a Legend 3, and that's supposed to be a higher MMR player. So we'll see kind of where that's at. But um, that team does have the lowest ranked player in the tournament at Guardian 2, which I'm fucking pumped to see play. But
I'm, you know what? Another team that's kind of just like whispers in the wind that I think is going to be pretty solid is I actually think Lust is going to be pretty good. I'm not entirely sure where this is coming from within, but for some reason, I feel like Lust is going to pop off. They're going to like dumpster the best of ones.
they are fucking terrifying when games are on the line. Like that, like I know they're not performing phenomenally this season, but if you remember last season in Intermediate League, they didn't really perform all that phenomenal, like until playoffs hit. And then they started shoving it down people's throats. So when games are on the line, I'm really excited to see them play. They're one of the most terrifying people in elimination games for sure. Um, I also like uh, Sexual Healing Inc. TM, consisting of Vandal, Dosia, HK, Smallnut, Ozone. Any team that Smallnut's on
Yeah,
it's
you know.
gonna pop off. Like this dude is Divine 4 going on Immortal like 30. You know what I mean? Like
Honestly,
the guy's insane. So I'm really excited for that team as well.
Boots of Midas wins the fun name award as well, next to Snowboard Kids 2, obviously.
I was gonna say you
Snowboard.
better put MTL Snowboard Kids 2 at top tier.
The classic.
That was my favorite game on
Snowboard Kids
N64, so they've already won my heart over.
Bro, honestly, like they were the lowest MMR nomination team to come in. I don't know about open quals yet. We haven't pulled the data, but that nomination damn near got them in, boys. You know they were fighting for votes there.
Well, they were getting votes like for a
They
bit.
were.
Yeah, and we were talking, and it was like, man, how do you say no to that? And we were talking like I want to get into kind of the direct invite kind of format and following directions, and we can joke about it. But Shamokin, can you tell me what the direction was for applying for a direct invite? What were captains supposed to do?
This was good. So teams were supposed to direct message me their team name, their roster, why their team should be one of the direct invites, and it also helped if you gave me your team's MMR. Some teams thought, nah, I'm just gonna go do it in general chat, baby. They roll up in general chat, dropping their nominations.
Like
Did get minus points.
you can't follow directions. You don't need a direct invite. You know what I mean? But I'm
You get some
thinking
minus points.
I'm like it's so easy like for us to just forget that that's even there. Like imagine being at work and you like just kind of clear out all your messages and things like that, and you just straight up don't see it. Like they just get passed up.
Yeah, I mean, it could have happened, right? And it could have been like a real banger stack,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, I mean,
Um,
we had a last minute team that I think is one of the two, maybe three favorites of the tournament. Just came in at the last minute for that direct invite.
yeah, that's true.
And that's Team Vapor. I don't even know how to say it. Chowda Viantovic. I don't. Who knows? Patiwak JMK7. I mute for my mental health. This second highest like MMR average team. Like they're gonna be fun. I would love to see like Firefist Simps, Vapor Boys, and then Bazinga Boys with DM. Like those three teams face off are gonna be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think so as well.
But any teams that you can see other than Lust that you feel like would potentially supply upsets. Let's maybe talk about the main tournament, like the top six, the direct invite teams. Are there any teams, and if you want to kind of say who those direct invite teams were, um, maybe talk, is there any that have potential to upset maybe one of the real high MMR average teams?
So just quickly to list them off, the direct invite teams were Connor got the first invite, and he brought PSGS. So we are one of the direct invites. Definitely the worst team, and we'll be knocked out first round. I have no doubts, but we will be there.
He's still out here.
Frostfire Simps, Team Vapor, Return Damage, Bazinga Boys, and Placeholder. I do actually have updated team names. Placeholder is Walk Like You Talk, and Return Damage is now Does This Game Have Return Damage? I think these are all going to be fairly good teams, but I'm not sure how many upsets we're going to end up seeing, just because I feel like these top three teams are just going to be so dominant. I feel like these rosters are just really strong, well-rounded, and
I feel like you gotta throw respect on the name of Return Damage, though, considering that they were the divine. I mean, this is the emotional damage divine league winning team running it back for the PSGS competition, like for this PSGS
that is
tournament.
true.
Like I think
And
you
I do
have to
have
throw respect on their name.
I do have quite a bit of respect for the individual players on this team. Shout out Naya, though I am team not Naya.
Yeah, absolutely. Team Not Naya hashtag CEO owner.
I'm Team Naya.
Dictator.
Team Naya, go
Never,
Naya.
never forget.
I'm only Team Not Naya if you're against us, Naya. That's all that it is.
I'm with Welshi though, because if there's going to be a single upset, I think it's going to be for sure if there's a matchup of Return Damage versus say Frostfire Simps. I think that Frostfire Simps is going to come in cocky. They were talking like, oh, we can just mess around, play around, things like that. And if I'm Return Damage and I've played together in a team aspect and was dominant, they were dominant when they played. Um, and with the consistent high average, they're not all over the place. Like they're all like for the most parts in that kind of 1700 to like 2000 like immortal range. I really believe that this team could take a game or potentially two just by being able to play together, knowing each other, playing multiple games in a team setting. If there's going to be an upset, I think it would be Return Damage pulling the upset.
It's definitely possible. Again, like we said, they are a really solid roster, but I'm still fairly confident in these top three teams and really excited to see them play. Unfortunately, I'll have to be playing one of them.
Yeah, well, it'll be quick and painless.
I do see what you're saying though about the top three teams. Like you kind of look at the distribution of MMR, which I know other people can't really see them because we're looking at it, but a lot of the teams, like for everyone that's not top three, so 4 to 15, you see a pretty easy step down as you go down the roster, like in MMR averages. And then you get to like top three, and then the difference between the 4th seat and the 3 seat is about 600 MMR. And then from
average.
average given, but this is 600 mmr average difference in the 4 seat and the 3 seat, which is where that cutoff is, and that's the biggest difference in the rank.
I will say though, the thing about return damage is stacked that, if I recall so far, is they don't have the the weakest link being considerably lower than their highest, right? Like to my knowledge, if I'm remembering correctly, they don't have like a legend or an ancient
No,
player.
divine 2s are lowest. They have 3 immortals, a divine 4, a divine 2.
And so a lot of these teams that registered, they either had like that 1 or 2 really high players, or they had like the 1 or 2 considerably lower players. And so I'm interested to see how those kind of teams match up against an average of a team that's all around the same rank.
Well, there's also like you bring in Bazinga Boys that has DNM. But if you look at the rest of their team, they have a Legend 5 and an Ancient 3 as well. I believe both support players, but they're going to rely really heavily on 3 players to essentially carry them, which to me means they're very upsettable. Like a team like Return Damage, who is pretty much all jam-packed in the same MMR, which, by the way, for those who don't know, it's higher than Champion League average. This team was outranked or ranked too high to continue for the next season in AD2L together. A team like that, where there's going to be even contribution from everybody, I think can upset it. Like, it's a 5-man roster against 2 guys who are used to playing completely different levels of Dota, and 3 guys who are used to playing different levels of Dota. So it's going to be basically half the teams playing one thing and half the teams playing the other, versus a team that's all together the entire time and on the same page.
I also want to say something that I just considered to factor in is the endurance. Like, this is going to be a lot of competitive Dota in a fairly short amount of time to what people are used to. You know, we're used to like the best of 3 once every week kind of thing.
Yeah.
Where if you go through opens and then let's say you make it all the way to finals, and like that's a lot of competitive Dota, round after round.
It's like 5 or 6 different teams potentially that you could be playing in 3 days.
Yeah. And you know, the last round of opens is going to be a best of 3. The main events are all best of 3s until the last series, which is most likely going to be a best of 5. I do want to do one public announcement on the open qualifier games. They are free game for casters. So if you want to get in and cast some of these exciting best of 1s or the best of 3s near the end, you are more than welcome to do that. It's probably best to contact the admin in one of the tournaments, myself or Greco preferably. But the main event, we do have our main casters pretty much on lock, being the Licky the Cow grand finalist.
The Licky the Cow?
Are you telling me it's the Licky the Cow?
The OD Pixel of AD2L?
Yes, sir.
Licky the Cow? Oh my god.
And we also have Zencoms.
Yo, fuck DNM. Like, we have Licky the Cow.
You're telling me that we have the Licky the Cow.
The Licky the Cow.
Yeah.
Damn, dude. We made it. We struck it big.
We made it. This is how I know the event's going to be good.
We peaked.
Somebody play Drake right now. We made
it.
Sorry, I went off a tangent on casters. No, I don't remember what I was talking about.
About casters.
Yeah, shout out. So yeah, if you want to cast the opens, feel free.
So before we wrap up, though, I'm actually curious. So you actually made a ticket with Valve for your tournament. Like, you actually officially made a ticket.
We have the 2 tickets. Yeah.
How did that go? Because as far as I know, Valve is a mystical being that you can't contact except through smoke signals. So was it a hard process, or how was it? What was it like?
They have a whole. It's fucking dated, but Dota2.com/league. You can make your own tickets, and for amateur tickets, there's about a 15-day lead time on that, give or take. But yeah, you can definitely get your own tickets and customize some of the stuff, but it's surely dated and finicky, as I experienced trying to get the images in.
Good lord.
They're very picky. I remember looking at that when we were talking about making our tournament. It's got to be specific, like dimensions, and like there's
Even
101.
then, it still gets upset.
Yeah, it's
600 by 400 PNGs. You're submitting that, and it's like, I don't like it.
Why though? I'm not telling you. You figure
It
it
doesn't
out.
tell you why. It's like, I don't like it. Okay, try again. I'll come back in 15 and try another 100 times.
Try the exact same image. Eventually, it just goes, "Oh no, I like this one." It's the exact same that I've tried for the last 50 times. What are you talking
You're
about?
constantly refreshing the page because it won't, like, after you submit the image, you have to, like, refresh to kind of see if it's applying or not. It's terrible. Absolutely terrible. Also, giving tickets to players. God bless AD2L, because that sucks. You gotta find their Steam page and then copy the links and make them admins on the league tournament. It's, not a fan.
Oy vey. So overall,
But-
was that like the most difficult part of the process, you would say, or was there any other issues you really had setting up this tournament?
You definitely seem to put yourself in some legal liability when you make these. If you go through the process yourself, you'll probably see what I kind of mean. But other than that, it wasn't, I would say, difficult. Other than the image part, that was just kind of frustrating. But no, it's definitely doable if you want to make your own thing. It's more than accessible, I'd say.
Awesome.
You still have a couple days too, so who knows? Once we get rolling in and kind of.
Oh, so we're recording this on the Tuesday. Open qualifier registration is probably going to close on Thursday evening. I'm not entirely sure on the time. I think it's 10 Eastern. But if you want to sign up for the open quals to still get a chance at the tournament, again, $300 prize pool currently, sign up by Thursday, 10 Eastern time.
Why don't you tell them the entry fee?
$5 entry fee.
That's
Half
it.
of it goes to the casters, half of it goes to the prize pool.
Hey man, and I'm excited. I can't wait. But we're gonna shut it down here. Thank you everybody for watching and listening and tuning in week by week. We're really excited. We're about 1/10 of the way of our goal, 10%, because everyone wants to know what does PSGS stand for. And it's good old-fashioned fun just talking about all this. So with that being said, have a good night.
See you in opens, everybody.
Bye.